Oh no, Andrew Solomon's on this. I gotta go.
Internet curse. Keep it professional.
I accost public commenters who are trying to give public testimony to improve a street.
All right, we are live.
Oh, sorry.
It is good to see everybody. Welcome to the August 2025 edition of Streets for All Happy Hour. We're very excited to have our friend John Erickson on, who is both a city council member in the city of West Hollywood and a candidate for California State Senate. So we're excited to talk about that. Before we get to our conversation with John, we'll give you an update on our efforts in Sacramento, talk to you about charter reform here in the city of Los Angeles, give you a Measure HLA update, and go over a few wins and fails. Our icebreaker this time, and John, you're welcome to think about this too, is if you could wave a wand, what's the one thing you'd change about transportation in California? So I'm going to turn over to Mark, who's going to answer that question and give us an update on our efforts in Sacramento. Mark.
Yeah, hi everyone. Mark Fuxovich here, one of the staff members. What I would do is I would go back in time to like 2008 or so, and I would pass the California high-speed rail bond, except I would make it exempt from CEQA, and I would give it permitting authority, and I would really make it a shining example of how to build transit and high-speed rail across California and really the country, and fix a lot of the issues we're having now. There's a lot of things you could do with Magic Wand, but that's the one I picked. So yeah, I want to give everyone a state update. I think everyone knows most of the thing that I focus on is our Sacramento affairs. And so in terms of the legislature, all of our, all of the bills have to go through the legislative process. And so all of our bills are in the second House Fiscal Committee. So that means if it's an Assembly bill, it's in the Senate. If it's a Senate bill, it's in the Assembly. And it's an Appropriations Committee, which evaluates the bill on its cost to the state. And so the interesting thing to note here is these sort of first four steps of policy committees and fiscal committee and first House vote and policy committee again, those took about 6 months. They started roughly in January and have gone until now. These last steps here, though, all happen in about 4 weeks. So it is go time, it is crunch time. If you are paying attention to a bill, this is the time to act and call your member and act on it. Next slide, please. So we have all of our 2025 legislative package, besides our two that aren't moving anymore. And I think there's going to be news on one more of those soon. But yeah, these are the bills that we've been running, but there's the big boy is SB 79. I think everyone's heard about this bill. And if you have it, it's a transit-oriented development bill. It would upzone areas near transit stops. This bill by Senator Wiener up in San Francisco, we are running, and we're one of the co-sponsors of, in addition with Inner City Law Center, California YIMBY, Greenbelt Alliance, others. And yeah, this bill has been having a rockin' time. It's made it this far. It's the farthest a transit-oriented development bill has ever made it in the state of California, and it's soon going to be on the assembly floor, we hope. And so we're hoping to get it passed and get it to the governor's desk. There's been a lot of tumult around this bill. The Los Angeles City Council just voted to oppose it yesterday. Mayor Bass just tweeted about it. So if you're still on Twitter, make sure you at her. I think there's a lot of people are having things to say, including national figures like John Favreau and others. And so, yeah, this is the bill that if you want to spend any of your resources on, it is worth it to do it now. Call your assembly member, your senators, ask your mom to do it too. It is totally worth it because this is going to be the biggest housing bill of the year. And with that, yeah, I'll pass it to Josh.
Thanks, Mark. If I could wave a magic wand and change anything about transportation, I think following in your footsteps, I would go back even further, and I just wouldn't rip out our streetcar network. We had the largest electric transit network in the entire world at one point in Southern California. And if we just had kept it, I think we'd be in much better shape. I'm going to talk about charter reform today. So this is a really big deal. The LA City Charter is pretty much the constitution of the city of LA, and it controls what city council can do, the mayoral powers, it impacts infrastructure and city budgets. And it's the first time in 20 years that there's an opportunity to change it. So there's a bunch of different proposals that are kind of on the table for this. If you go to the next slide, Michael. Adding more LA City Council members, ranked choice voting, reducing council member powers over land use, and consolidating departments. And we've spent the last couple months talking with city insiders and people that are allies and people that maybe aren't allies, and really figuring out strategically what should Streets for All be focusing on, what are the outcomes we care about with this. And so we are just about to release our platform. You can go to charter.streetsforall.org to see it. But the four main pillars are consolidating BSS and LADOT into one department. Right now, we have a department that manages our streets and the physical concrete, and another one that's trying to manage the transportation infrastructure and making traffic better and streets safer. And they do not work together well, so they should be one single department. We also want dedicated operational funds for streets. Right now, LADOT and BSS have the smallest staffing size and their lowest budgets in the last decade. And they're not winning the budget battles every year at City Hall. So they need regular operational budgets. And then we also support a 2-year budget cycle and a 5-year CIP, which other orgs are also pushing for. With that, I'm going to hand it to Michael.
Thanks, Josh. If I could wave a wand, I think I would change California's priorities when it comes to spending money. Instead of spending billions of dollars a year widening highways, which makes climate change and traffic worse, I would redirect that to cities specifically to build bus lane, bike lane networks, things like that. All right, quick update on Metro HLA. As of Monday, 2 days ago, the implementation ordinance is officially law. The dashboard, the city dashboard still sucks. More about that in a minute. Joe Linton's lawsuit, which really centers around the Vermont corridor, lacking bike lanes and applying HLA to city-involved metro projects, is still proceeding. No material updates there. The appeals process is now live, meaning any Angelino that thinks that HLA has been violated, you don't have to call a lawyer. You can literally just go on to the dashboard, choose a project you think fell short, and file an appeal. And many have actually already been filed. And we're really watching the city right now for what they call large asphalt repair. We're hearing that the city may try to avoid implementing Measure HLA by doing large asphalt repair instead of repaving. If that sounds almost the same to you, it's kind of because it almost is the same. But the city is trying to use that as a loophole, and we're keeping a very close eye on that. The city did launch the dashboard on time, but again, it kind of sucks. There's a lot of incorrect information, maps that are wrong, project boundaries that are wrong. We're working with them and really hope that they fix this pretty soon and show that they're taking this seriously. Back to Josh to go over our first fail of the month.
Yes, this is a big one. We're a little late to this party, but for the last decade, LAX has been going through a bunch of large renovations and projects. I'm sure everyone is familiar with the People Mover. I'm very excited for that to open early next year. Another one that is close to breaking ground. It's right now being engineered and it's going to go out to bid and hopefully, from the city's point of view, be constructed before the Olympics, is a massive road widening project kind of right at the mouth of LAX. It's not going to expand the horseshoe where the traffic is, and it's going to induce a ton of car travel, and their own environmental document says that it's going to make traffic worse. This project went through the environmental process before Streets for All really existed, so we're late to this party, but we're working on ways to slow this project down, hopefully stop it, and make sure that there's still pedestrian and bike access to the center of Los Angeles, or the center of LAX. The California Transportation Commission also just approved a bunch of freeway widening projects. This is over $600 million in new freeway projects. It sucks to see. Induced demand is very much real, and our state is ignoring it. There's one project farther north in the state called Highway 37 that they're widening, and it's literally projected to be underwater in 20 years. Because of climate change. So it sucks to see, and there's a lot more work to do. I'm going to hand it over to Katrina to talk about some local safety projects.
Thanks, Josh, and hi, everyone. My name is Katrina Kaiser from the steering committee, and if I could wave a magic wand and change things in transportation in California, I would actually probably go to the 1960s or 70s when, you know, land use policy was really changing to be oriented around the car, and new suburbs were springing up oriented around the car, and I would love to go back in time and sort of erase that, sort of aligned with what Mark had to say about the streetcar system. But I'm here to talk about a couple of potential wins of the month that we're watching. The first one is the Pico Boulevard Safety and Mobility Project. This is a protected bike lane that's going to stretch all around along Pico Boulevard, currently from Crenshaw in the west, all the way into downtown. If you go to the next slide, a couple of things that we're watching is to ensure that, the bike lane that ends up here ends up being a protected bike lane as opposed to just an unprotected painted bike lane. This will obviously be a much safer outcome. This is also important because, this corridor project is parallel with Venice Boulevard, and it's really kind of meant to replace this leg of Venice Boulevard, which is, of course, part of our greater Venice Boulevard for All campaign that you might remember from, the last several years. We're also hoping to advocate for an extension west to San Vicente, which makes it a lot more connected to the rest of the greater protected bike lane network in this part of the LA basin. So this is open for public comment now. Make sure you go to LADOT's website to make comment, and that'll be in the chat. The next one I want to discuss is the Spring and Alameda Safety and Mobility Project. This is downtown. This is a really exciting win because it connects a couple of different transit hubs and makes that first last mile access a lot easier for riders who are taking transit here. It closes a big gap as well in terms of bike access between downtown and the LA River Path. And we're excited about this because this is most likely to be a protected bike lane. This is great because, as you know, these streets are sort of wide and busy and uncomfortable to ride. So we're really excited about these. Back over to Michael.
Thank you. For our last fail, which there is also a win part of it, is Fountain Avenue in West Hollywood. Since our last happy hour, another person died. Blake Ackerman was cycling home and was hit and killed by a driver that ran away. We're really sick of this. And the West Hollywood City Council approved this project in 2021, and it's not scheduled to go into the ground until the end of next year. So we really want to find ways to speed this up. On the plus side, if you haven't seen the plans, you should look into it. They're really great. And West Hollywood is calling what you see in this image a quick build. It has concrete protection. It has crash barriers in the form of planters. It's really well designed. So at the end of the day, this is a great project. It's just taking way too long to get into the ground, and we want to get it into the ground before any other lives are taken away on Fountain. Quick update on our members program. We have 2 new perks. Upway, the largest e-bike marketplace, used e-bike marketplace. You can get a discount on a new, or I should say a used e-bike on Upway. And then Wombi, if you live in LA and you want to try an e-bike, you can lease one from Wombi. They take care of service. It's insured if it's stolen or it breaks. And these are 2 new perks to our members program. Quick preview for next month. We're excited to have Senator Wiener on, and that will be Wednesday, September 17th at 5 p.m. via Zoom. So I am excited to introduce John. John is a West Hollywood City Council member, a former mayor, and chief of staff at the Alliance for a Better Community. He was elected to City Council in 2020, and he's championed housing and homelessness solutions, renters' rights, sustainability, and public safety, including, believe the very first transportation thing he did was lead on the redesign of Fountain Avenue. As state senator, John's top priority will be protecting our democracy, defending California from attacks by the Trump administration, and meeting this moment with bold intersectional solutions. He has a lot of detailed platforms on many topics that you can see on his website, but I did want to read you his transportation and infrastructure platform. John believes safe, accessible, and sustainable transportation is essential to our future. He will invest in street safety improvements, better sidewalks, protected bike lanes, and first last mile connections to make it easier for people to get around without relying on cars. He will champion metro expansion, more frequent bus service, and infrastructure upgrades that connect our neighborhoods, making it easier and more affordable to explore our region. This is the first time I have seen a candidate running for state senate that actually has a very detailed transportation policy that even includes protected bike lanes in it. So I was excited to read that. Welcome, John. So I'm going to go forward with our first question, and then we'll open it up to the audience. And it is about Fountain. I wanted to get you on the record about Fountain. In 2021, council directed staff in West Hollywood to make safety improvements on Fountain, including a protected bike lane. Here we are, nearly 4 years after that vote, and nothing is in the ground. Meanwhile, we've had multiple horrific fatalities on Fountain, including the recent death of Blake Ackerman, who was just trying to get home on his bike. Right now, construction is not planned to be complete prior to the end of 2026. So 2 questions. What do you feel went wrong with this project? Like, why is it taking so long? And 2, do you think it's possible to speed up the work so it can get done before we lose another life?
Well, first, thanks for having me, Michael. And it's great to see all my friends from Streets for All. I even see council member and icon Natalia Zernitskaya from Santa Monica on. We love you. And Sadie, of course, that's a community right there. I'm going to start with the second part of your question first. The answer is yes. So a big thing I've been focused on is getting shovels in the ground and quick build as soon as possible. So I'm really proud to say that when this item comes before the city council, those would be primarily my questions, and staff is prepared to answer that. I'm still pushing them to do it faster. And as Michael said, I think in the beginning, this was my first item with now Supervisor Horvath, I believe, on completely improving Fountain Avenue, where I actually live. I also want to take a moment to honor the life of Blake Ackerman, who was taken too soon from us. If you know anything about him, I did not know him personally, but what I have come to know about this incredible young individual was that he had a bright future really ahead of him. And it was struck down by a car who senselessly and foolishly drove away. And I want to thank the community members who rallied to really find the individual who was then arrested. And that process will continue. And I know the ghost bike is still there. I see it every day when I walk my dog, Winnie, along Fountain, and I try to weave in and out of the horrible sidewalks to the traffic, to the speeding cars that Winnie has sadly become too all accustomed to, but it's the work that we have to do. I think there's a couple of reasons why this process has been so delayed. One, the city of West Hollywood is a contract service-based city. So what that really means is we don't have Department of Public Works and other departments that can go in there and, like the city of LA or the incredible city of Santa Monica or other cities, to go do these things in-house and get it done. We have to contract out for a lot of work. Everyone always likes a study. I love data. We did data. We got the studies. Michael and the whole team was there when we started getting all these studies to prove it. And so we had to go out there for construction drawings and everything else that you can name it. So to get this process going, we've had multiple bureaucratic votes on this just to, I think, have votes on it. And I don't understand why. I think that's bureaucracy gone haywire. And I think that's a big problem. I've written an article most recently, a couple of weeks ago in the Los Angeles Blade that essentially says bureaucracy is, killing improvements for our streets and our safety, because everything has to go back for a duplicative vote when the will of the majority, the will of the people, and other things are there. And then I think, this goes without saying, politics got involved. There was a lot of misinformation spread out through the community through some very bad actors. I just have to be completely honest, who outwardly lied, caught them red-handed to so many people. And that type of lying is something I'd expect from the Trump administration, not something from a resident of West Hollywood. But, if it quacks like a duck and walks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And I think that ultimately then set a referendum, and that referendum was called the 2024 election, where the number one issue on the ballot, if you lived in West Hollywood, was Fountain Avenue, and I was elected very overwhelmingly. So was my colleague Danny Hang, and they literally made signs that said "Stop Erickson and Hang" and said "Stop bike lanes on Fountain." So I think, sadly, politics got involved in it. And that's really unfortunate because, as you said, Michael, people's lives are on the line. And traffic violence impacts all of us and can impact any of us at any moment. And so I'm dedicated to pushing this through. There was a public process last night. There's a public process tonight with the Transportation Commission, and it's coming to the council on the 15th of September. And I plan on voting for it. And I plan on pushing my colleagues to vote for it. And as I've said to all of them, this is a moment where they have to ask themselves, do they want to improve street safety and prevent traffic violence? And if the answer is yes, then they will vote accordingly with the way that something has been studied. The plans are great. It is a streetscape plan, no matter what people want to say, and they'll move it forward. And if they don't, they will continue to have blood on their hands. If another person or people, or perhaps an animal, one of our amazing furry-legged friends, gets killed, and that's unacceptable. And they would have to live with that for the rest of their lives. Like I have to live with the fact that this has taken too long and people have sadly lost their lives. And it's sad, and we're going to do all that we can to push it forward. And I'm really proud that we're going to do it.
Thank you. Over to Kyle for our next question.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, John. Great to have you on again. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about micromobility. So West Hollywood has this kind of back and forth relationship with micromobility. You know, scooters were allowed, then banned, then allowed again, and then more recently, delivery robots have been permitted to operate in the city. And at the same time, California has been considering statewide frameworks for regulating micromobility and automated delivery devices, which could, of course, affect how much flexibility cities like West Hollywood has. Where do you think the LA region is at today with the space, with micromobility? And what state policy levers do you think have been important? Do you support WeHo, other cities having a permanent micromobility program? And what changes, whether at this level or the state level, do you think are needed to ensure its success?
Well, absolutely. I support it both statewide as well as locally. You know, this past weekend I was at Ciclavia and I left my e-bike down in Culver City at my partner's house, my partner's family's house, and I had to get it, but we had no way. It was a car-free day. I didn't want to drive. And so my partner and I took one of our Lime bikes that we have in West Hollywood all the way down to Culver City to pick it up. Now, if you know Culver City, which I love, and I have many friends on the council and friends there, they don't work in Culver City. So we had to trudge a little bit longer to get through those things. But that city by city piecemeal approach isn't really working. For example, on Monday night, we found out that one of the reasons, and a lot of the complaints that we get are, you know, scooters on sidewalks or in front of buildings are strung around. That's not okay. No one wants that. To assume that anyone that supports micromobility wants a scooter blocking someone's sidewalk is just like, I'm trying to understand your logic. Like, why would you think we want that? But I mean, read a book, I guess. But, you know, but ultimately, LA does not allow for the locking cords like you see in other cities, like in Washington, D.C., just using the Lime scooters. And because we do, so the ways in which you go to LA, come to WeHo, it wouldn't be the same. Right. So we do need to work on a statewide micromobility approach because it's used overwhelmingly. In the last year in West Hollywood, there were 200,000 rides, 200,000 rides. And our city can actually project this. Now, there were a lot of naysayers and people who just hate the program, and that's fine, hate the program, but you can't deny facts. Again, we get back to this Trump administration thing of just people denying facts. And it's sad that we have Trumpers in West Hollywood, but, you know, let it be, let it be. And these are their neighbors. You may not like that a delivery robot is coming to deliver your Thai food from a local business, which is, you know, not having to, you know, they can set their jobs and wages at a different level. You may not like that a delivery robot is frankly being more kind of considerate than a lot of people are on the sidewalks. Sometimes those things have a mind of their own, but that is your neighbor delivering that. So you may not like it, but they do. And we do have to live together, and we can find better ways to, I think, address this at a policy-wide level. But and I think West Hollywood did have that ping pong that has sadly gone in and gone out. Are we going to have it? Are we not going to have it? And then there's obviously the financial aspects of all these different companies that, you know, were in existence in 2020 and aren't anymore, and how that's happened. But we really do need to find a way in which we holistically look at how we can fix micromobility throughout the region, and allowing that to have a little bit more concrete knowledge for people that use them. And it also gets cars off the road and allows people to be more accessible in different ways. So I fully support all those things. And, you know, and in West Hollywood, we're actually making money off of this program now. And there was everyone saying, you're giving money, you're spending money. It's like the facts are the facts. I mean, I kind of am always wondering, like, am I in a parallel universe when I have to explain facts to people? But that's okay. That's our job. Whatever. But ultimately, these things are really important. And as my nephew found out when he got his own personal scooter last Christmas, he said, don't tell certain members in your community your nephew has a scooter and rides scooter. I don't need them coming to my school to yell at me. And the fact that my nephew is that traumatized from some public commenters at my council meetings tells you all about what the future is and when we're looking at micromobility, even across the United States.
Totally. It makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that. Back to
And I'm
Michael,
really
who's going to
honest right
introduce our
now.
next.
Sorry, I'm probably saying way
No,
more than
no,
I
go
should,
ahead.
but you know.
Don't
No.
worry, it's being recorded and it's live.
Great.
Over to
Great.
Katrina for our next question.
Thanks, Michael, and thanks, John. I've got a question for you about the K-Line Northern Extension.
I support it. When can we get it? I'll put the shovels in the ground myself.
Well,
I'm
that's our
calling it
question
the
for you. That's our question for you. So, like, you know, the city has launched this effort, finished the line to entice Metro to accelerate the northern extension of the K line up to the Hollywood Bowl. But
Yeah.
of course, it's not moving very quickly at the Metro board. And with Trump in office, as you've mentioned, federal funding is certainly in jeopardy. So, based on where you sit, where is this project at? And what do you think about the possibility of moving it forward in this climate? What will it take?
Oh, okay. So this is a great question. So I'm really proud that the city of West Hollywood last year when I was mayor worked with now Congressmember Laura Friedman to pass an update to TIFIA loans or TIFA loans that we passed at the statewide level to allow cities to invest in it different ways, because West Hollywood, the city of LA, the county, Metro, and different boards are going to have to pay for their portion, essentially, right? And it allowed us to bond it out at a different way. So I'm really glad we changed that state law when we did, because I think it was important for us to get that through as much as we could. Thank you. Yeah, tax increment financing. You know, unfortunately, if we still had a Secretary Buttigieg, we would be looking at probably a lot more federal dollars coming away. That is not the case right now. Now, Metro is trying to accelerate this as fast as you can. The City of West Hollywood is identifying how we're going to pay for our portion and essentially redevelop, you know, the entire area that is West Hollywood, you know, in that area that is, depending on where the station will go, along Santa Monica Boulevard and San Vicente, because it's going underground and would be there. So that's a huge moment for the city to build its future, right? So what does that look like in housing, commercial development, you name it, in that whole rich area? So really excited about the economic value of Metro, but that's why partners like Supervisor Lindsay Horvath and all the other individuals who across this region have been so supportive of it are all playing that critical role to moving it as fast as we can. I call it the Lindsay Horvath Express, because without her on the Metro board as it is right now, it probably would be even further delayed. But because she played such a critical partner in passing Measure M, and West Hollywood, by the way, passed Measure M at 84% way back when. It's incredible. And so what we need to do, and what I plan to do when I'm elected to the state Senate, is look at how I'm going to invest statewide monies, and what we have to do is bond out, what we have to figure out to directly invest in these local infrastructure projects to get them moving fast. The Sepulveda corridor is another thing that's in my district if I become state senator. And we need to continue these momentous occasions. You know, I don't like that they put like a maybe for the Hollywood Bowl. You know, that the little extra that it is, I think that it is a mistake to not do or push it to the Hollywood Bowl. And I would like to see that happen as well. But West Hollywood is dedicated to doing our part. When I'm elected to the state Senate, I will play an oversized part to however I can. And look, you know, the Trump administration is the Trump administration, but we have to deal with individuals at these departments, and how do we work together and find common language? The Olympics is coming. FIFA's already here, if you think about really it being only a few years away. And we really need to do all that we can to accelerate all of these projects because I am so sick and tired of walking to the Holly. I mean, I love walking; it's lovely. But you know, I literally take a scooter up to the Hollywood Bowl. You know, I park it, and then I walk home from there because I live closer to the east side of. I live on the east side of West Hollywood, but we shouldn't be able to walk down the street, get on the train, and go the way up there, and make it so much easier. And so I want to play an outsized. I want to play an outsized role in how I can push these things forward.
Thanks, John. That's actually a really good segue to our next question. Over to Mark.
Hi, Mayor Erickson. Good to see you. Yeah, I just wanted to, so I work on all of our state policy for Streets for All, and so I wanted to ask a little bit about that. First, I wanted just to editorialize, just like it is not just the city of West Hollywood who experiences these MAGA people who are opposing bike lanes. I know that in Senator Blake Spears' district in Encinitas, a young child named Brody was killed on an e-bike. And now that council went MAGA, they're threatening to rip out the bike lane that was installed to keep Brody safe. And so it's not just West Hollywood; it's happening all over. And so I just wanted to sort of share and keep my heart with you on that. What I did want to ask you about is state policy, and really, as you run for as you become a potential state senator, I wanted to understand what your goals are regarding transportation and land use. That's a big priority to Streets for All with a number of our bills that are in both sides of the spaces because we understand that they're interconnected.
So I'm really proud that the city of West Hollywood was the first city to Me Too SB 79 when it had its first committee hearing. We took a vote on Monday. We and the lobbyists on Tuesday up in Sacramento went there and said Me Too. I'm proud to be already endorsed by YIMBY Los Angeles, and I intend to earn more housing endorsements because I have a record that I've run on that, you know, has really looked at how do we locally take all these things into consideration. I can talk to the state and I can talk about the state laws, but we can still look at how we're meeting our arena numbers, how we're building housing, how we're streamlining business, permit approvals, and how we're actually getting shovels in the ground. First case and example is La Cienega and Santa Monica Boulevard. That development is moving forward. That was something I oversaw and approved, but making sure that they had some hiccups. And the sad thing about those hiccups was that the city's bureaucracy was standing in the way. It was zone compliant, it was approved, it met everything, it got approved by the council. And so those are the things that we locally have to really figure out. I think with some of these issues like SB 79 being not supported by the city of LA, a lot of information was sadly not accurate. I rewatched most of the meeting. You know, I would, you know, if I had the honor of serving as state senator, living in, you know, and undergoing what people and communities in the Pacific Palisades went through is horrific, and we want to make sure that they can rebuild as quickly as possible. SB 79 does not apply to the Palisades. Like it doesn't. And I like that's I'm a reductionist at heart, and so I'm just like it doesn't apply to you, so I don't understand why you're so upset.
John, sorry to interrupt you, but you're more informed than some LA City Council members that voted yesterday to oppose.
Well, you know, some of those people are my friends, and you know, I understand, and you know, but I think facts matter in this way, and I don't know their politics. I'm not gonna, you know, ding them. I don't need them coming into my backyard and telling me what to do in West Hollywood. I can obviously always call them and help advocate in those ways. But, you know, I think as a larger role, what we have to do at the state is, you know, figure out a way in which cities are going to start building housing. Transit corridor and transit rich corridors are the first place. You know, there was this whole argument years ago, it's still there, by the way, that we should only build on commercial corridor streets. Okay, great, build, and then have a train underneath, have micromobility, have all these things. But, oh no, we shouldn't do it there because of X, Y, and Z. Okay, so then infill housing becomes an issue. The fact that one project in West Hollywood, the Weatherly project, had to go through years of approvals to even come for 98 units of 100% affordable housing was just asinine. I mean, it was just crazy that they had to spend an affordable housing developer, mind you, the types that people would like to be building in their communities, had to spend millions of dollars to even get to the finish line. And that's why, sadly, these state laws exist. And so I think largely, you know, I intend to be in the district, and, you know, love being in these communities that, you know, I serve, and I love being out in the in West Hollywood and talking to people. And I hear that there's no place to live, the rent is too high. I can't leave my rent controlled apartment because even though my cost of living and my wages are not being matched up, so how am I supposed to move? You know, that's why tenant protections and tenant harassment protections are so critical, stuff that I've authored as a city. But cities need to get back into the business of doing business. We are wasting millions and millions of dollars. And the reason why it costs more to build an affordable housing unit than it does a parking spot is because of that. And that's just unacceptable. I think everyone, I pray, I hope, I will be wrong, because there'll be somebody probably in the chat saying, no, that's not right. But like, you know, it costs more to build a parking spot than an affordable housing unit. That's because California is too expensive, because we put in all these roadblocks. We need to remove those roadblocks.
Absolutely. And before I pass it to Josh, I just want to say, you know, John, you're so affable and so charismatic on this. I think some people might think you're exaggerating, but I want to tell everyone that I was in Sacramento the day after West Hollywood voted to support SB 79, and the city's lobbyist, her name is Sylvia, she's a very delightful lady, was there in support of the bill. And I want everyone to know that that was that literally happened exactly the way that John described it. So thank you again for the support on 79. I'll pass it to Josh.
Thanks. And I've got a question that's pretty much in line about not building things fast enough and the barriers we put in place of building things. As you know, voters approved the California High-Speed Rail project in 2008, and it was supposed to open about 5 years ago.
It's not open? What do you mean?
I don't know. There's no dates or funding to get it south of Bakersfield. There's nothing on the map. This project has become a political punching bag on the national news, and it's symbolic of just how hard it is to build infrastructure in California. As a potential senator, what ideas do you have to build major infrastructure projects much faster?
Well, I think, you know, for me, most importantly, what I did when I looked at our housing streamlining item in the city of West Hollywood that I brought forth 5 months now ago, it's just crazy that that was so long ago. But it was really like getting into the details. And I think the thing is right now legislators are, well, one, we're responding in rapid fire to the horrific things going on in our communities. We have elected some incredible champions, people like Senator Sasha Renee Perez and others who have just been bombarded by the like Assemblymember Jose Salache, people who have just been, you know, bombarded by ICE attacking their communities and the fires and everything. So we are not allowing, I think, a lot of our people to focus on some of these policies, which is the sad thing. Because I think a lot of these individuals that we've been elected recently are so critical and so smart and like how we move things forward. So, but we have to get back into the policy. So how do you work with a hostile administration that wants to just essentially say California is out of touch, it's too expensive, and we're never going to build this? You sadly still have to work with them. You have to sit across the aisle and you have to find commonality. Now, this is an economic business-based decision. California high-speed rail has sadly been eroded by our own people, even in the Democratic Party, that have tried to slow it down by putting in obstacles, different neighborhood groups, lawsuits, you name it. We need to remove some of those obstacles and if we're really going to seriously invest. And then we also have to bring the cost down. So how do you bring the cost down, right? When you're looking at costs rising everywhere, the state actually has to become an investor in a serious way if we're really going to put our money where our mouth is, because we know we're probably not going to get much help from the federal government. So are these bonds, are these taxes, are these different incentives that we can give to local communities to pay their fair share? I don't know the exact answer right now, but I know I really want to dive into some of these critical issues so that way we can maybe one day experience California high-speed rail and I don't ever have to drive to Las Vegas ever again, in any way, shape, or form, or driving to San Francisco. Like no one, like, and then we haven't even talked about the climate change impacts of flying in those ways and what that does. So it's a whole different level, but we need to get serious. And sadly, it all involves money, which is why the 2026 election is so critical, because we're going to have to change a lot of the makeup in a lot of different ways if we're going to get partners that will send some funds out.
Thank you. I think I had the next question, and we're almost done with curated questions. So please put your questions for John at the link in the chat. This one's about PCH. So Caltrans is currently working on a plan to improve pedestrian and bicycle safety on PCH through Malibu, which you would represent should you win your election. Right now, first of all, the plan is pretty good. It's not great. There's still a lot of fear of removing street parking to actually make protected bike lanes and adding more crosswalks and things like that. PCH is one of the deadliest highways in the country. Right now, Caltrans estimates if they find the funding, they will need 15 to 20 years to make these safety improvements on PCH. Obviously, that's far too long. That makes Fountain look fast. And so the question is, as the state senator that would represent Malibu in that part of LA County, what would you do to dramatically speed up making PCH multimodal and safe for all modes of transportation?
Oh, we are going to streamline permitting approval processes on PCH and work with Caltrans and all the partners to make sure that when you get one sign off, it's done. It's incredibly important that people's lives are never put in danger like that. And, you know, this is something that we've been trying to do locally here for a number of years. You know, the speed camera aspect are not allowed at local cities. Cities are not allowed to implement speed cameras. So PCH, when this accident, there have been multiple accidents on PCH, by the way. I just want to acknowledge that. But the most recent one, when I believe there were 4 girls that crossed PCH that were killed, the state acted quickly and allowed speed cameras along PCH. That is not the same in places like West Hollywood. So we are working with our statewide partners to change that law to give local control. Because for once, local cities are saying, we'll pay for it. We will do it, right? And that's the issue. If local cities, kind of like what Malibu and PCH, if we're willing to invest in those dollars to improve and make our streets safer, then we should. But PCH has been long overdue for quite some time. And so we need to holistically involve Malibu and get people serious on what we're actually going to do to make it quicker. And sadly, I know street trigger word for a lot of people, but ultimately what we have to do, look at what's holding up the process. There are a lot of state entities that sadly just hold up everything. You know, and this can answer a preview, because I think that if people keep asking these questions, they should probably know the answer. Speed cameras are not allowed in local cities. I just said that. Red light cameras are not allowed in cities like West Hollywood. I know there's a state law that's trying to be passed right now, meaning it's still not allowed. So if people ask, why haven't you installed the red light cameras? I don't know, read a book and understand that. But we have to further move forward. Yes, thank you. The speed, I know it's your bill, but like, we need to get these things passed because the state has taken away a lot of local control for cities to make their roads safer. It was just a year or 2 ago that cities were allowed to lower their speeds in certain ways without having to involve, you know, a whole host of different entities. That is why it is critical that we have someone up there that understands the local issues. You can't just go and, you know, while we want to make everything fast, if we can streamline a process to make it more successful and involve the voices that need to be at the table, we can avoid some of the drama that will also happen too. And that's critical.
Thank you. One last quick question, because I do want to have time for audience questions. Over to you, Josh.
Thanks. One more Caltrans question. California has aggressive climate and sustainability goals, which we are not meeting. At the same time, our state is spending billions of dollars per year widening our highways, inducing more driving and increasing greenhouse gas emissions. We've seen time and time again that California Transportation Commission unanimously approves highway widening projects despite the state's climate goals. How do you think we can end this insanity and instead move state funding towards sustainable modes of transportation like bus lanes, rail, and bike lanes?
Well, it's a budget is a statement of priorities, and priorities need to include an investment in a cleaner and greener future. And that is where the rub meets the road. Investing in bus lanes, as we have seen on La Brea, has been highly successful in our part of West Hollywood. Investing in those dedicated bus lanes in that way, investing in different types of transit have always been critical for providing another avenue. Widening freeways does not make you go faster. It just allows more cars and more traffic. And you said that you said the number one thing at the top of your question. We have very robust climate and energy goals that we have to hit. Gas, as we know, is skyrocketing, and what's going on there, right? But specifically when it comes down to our climate goals, if we continue to add more cars to the roads, we're just going to continue to exacerbate the problem. There is an energy production problem in the state of California. We export more gas and oil, and we're importing a lot more dirtier oil from like places like Texas, which is going to cause a further cause a clean air issue that we continue to see. We are probably even at risk of no longer seeing the downtown Los Angeles skyline in some ways, right? But we also need to work with our partners in labor, as well as on at Caltrans. And as we all know, Caltrans is the place where good projects go to die. And we really need to ensure that we're doing all that we can to involve these people at the table. And I've had that role in West Hollywood, and I know I can take that up to the state to involve it. And just a little, I'll tell a quick story about Caltrans, because we all have a horror story with Caltrans. I used to work at a nonprofit that needed to take safety very seriously. We had something by a highway, and it took 2.5 years to get the approval to rip down like a chain link fence along a freeway so we could install a safer wall so people couldn't harass people. And if you know my background, you know what I'm talking about and where I worked. 2 years. And then we had to go to the city that place had a jurisdiction in and get approval from them as well. It's just like bureaucracy is killing people and killing the process as well. So.
Thank you. Okay, we have a bunch of audience questions, so we're going to get through as many as we can. The first one is about the Metro Board.
Yes.
Do you think one of your city council colleagues should run for the Metro Board West Side City seat after Mayor Butts to help Supervisor Horvath get K-Line Northern Extension built?
Yeah, tell me when I support Chelsea Byers for the Metro Board. I'm happy to do. I mean, yes, we need more people on the Metro Board with like minds that are focused on pushing forward these projects. So I would hope so. And I say our current mayor, Chelsea Byers, but she's been a strong supporter of all of these initiatives, and she would be an incredible asset to the Metro Board to help Supervisor Horvath, who was on the city council with me when I was first elected, in any way. So let me know when that campaign starts, Michael. I'll join in.
Do you think it's a possibility? I mean, I don't know when Mayor Butts is stepping off and the cog.
I don't know. I'm going to call Chelsea right after this, though, and start putting the bug in her ear. So there you go. Look, and that's all I got to say about that.
All right. Next question. What can be done to ensure that future street safety projects in West Hollywood don't take 5+ years to implement? I know you kind of already answered this, but if you have anything else to say.
Getting rid of redundant votes. I actually have several items I'm looking to make policy that were in the article I wrote that talks about once something's voted on, it's done, signed, sealed, delivered. Like we don't need to have it come back 5 times. What a waste of time. What a waste of public dollars. What a waste of tax dollars. And frankly, what a waste of emotions in so many ways. Like people are so invested in these issues. Thank you. On both sides, it's fine. I don't really see a both sides on this issue because I think street safety is something that we should all be universally for. Whatever, we can digress on what that looks like. But it's just the bureaucracy of it. It needs to stop. We need to vote, plans, approved, done, shovels in the ground. And so I'm working on bringing forth some stuff in the coming months, and we're trying to figure out how I can turn that into actual policy for a city that doesn't have those direct services.
Thank you. Question on the Sepulveda Pass, which you would represent should you win the seat. Do you have a position on the Sepulveda transit project? Do you have a preferred alignment? Do you feel there must be a dedicated UCLA stop? Are you pro monorail? Whatever you'd like to say.
I definitely think there needs to be a dedicated UCLA stop. I'm very much in alignment with what I believe Supervisor Horvath has been pushing on the Metro board. You know, I've been reading it all in my spare time, which doesn't exist. But I fully support it. I want to see the Sepulveda Pass corridor. You know, I'm happy that so many people are really invested. I've been talking with some of the the coalition members of that group, because it's very similar to kind of everybody on like we have in West Hollywood. But I just, after speaking to a lot of students at UCLA, having a dedicated UCLA stop is critical.
Next question. What can be done at the state level to prevent small groups of obstructionists from blocking efforts to make our streets less deadly? I don't know if anything can be done at the state level for that. We do live in a democracy.
Can I just start a prayer group for most of them and start, you know, communal exorcisms, I guess, in a way? Like, I mean, I say that flippantly because I know several of my bestest friends from the city of West Hollywood are watching this. But you know, I look, opposition and a minority view is welcome. Sometimes we find out really good things that we might not have seen. Last night at the community meeting on Fountain, I saw people and I spoke to people that were vehemently against the project. And I saw some of our incredible staff, truly incredible staff, talk them through their questions, and they're like, okay, I'm good, I'm gonna go. Because they went home because their question was answered, right? That's the public process. They came, they had questions, they did not shout down public commenters. Go watch some of the social media if you want to see what that was like. They respected, frankly, the process, and they were professional. But they got their questions asked because that's the public process. That is exactly how it's supposed to go. Get your answers. You might not agree with them, but those are the facts. And I was really happy to see some of those people who I've talked to for a number of months now get those questions answered about parking, alignment, sidewalk improvements, all that stuff. And I was really glad to see them come up to me and say, I fully support this now. Thank you so much. And, you know, have a great meeting.
Tangentially, you know, change can be hard for people. Like
Yes.
I understand that. We should all understand that. What are your strategies as a political figure to bring people along with you? Not everyone's going to agree. That's fine. That's part of a democracy. But how do you bring some people along with you and create good change?
Yeah, you know, I do have an open door policy. As I think many people know here, I'm in Plummer Park once a month in West Hollywood where I live. And I literally set up a card table and I say, come talk to me. You have a question, come talk to me. And I will give you my honest to God's truth. That is the best I can do as any elected official, advocate, or politician. I'm going to tell you what I think. And I think that brings people along a lot of the time. And that is something that I see a lot of people needing to do a lot more of. Just tell me if you're with me, tell me if you're not, and we can work together in whatever way. I also think that if, you know, we can agree to disagree and still be civil, then we've really probably lost it as America. I know we're well beyond that when you think some national politics of where the world is at. But in a city like West Hollywood, where you have people literally lying, papering cars, taping things up on poles. And by the way, it's so funny because if anyone else were to ever do one iota of what some of the naysayers would to do in West Hollywood, they would be blowing up every email, every phone call that was in God's creation to complain about it. But, you know, we just let them go because they're in the minority opinion on that, sadly. But honesty is the best policy. And I think that really is needed in politics. I mean, you know, I have a lot of friends, as we'll call it, you know, and I say that facetiously, right? Because, you know, whatever I am, but I just tell it like it is. And I just tell people what I feel and they can choose to accept it or not.
Thank you. Few more questions. The West Side City's COG is exploring bus lanes for the Olympics, including on La Cienega. Do you support that project?
Yes, absolutely. And actually, though, I when I was at the West Side City's COG meeting, and I got appointed to the Santa Monica Bay Restoration Commission, we had to start asking, where is Metro going to get all these electric buses, right? Because we know if you look at Metro's bus fleet, they don't have enough buses for the Olympics. So fully in support of that, and we need to start investing in buying more buses so we can continue these services for after the Olympics, because these green climate policies just don't need to exist for just a month in August.
Question about Santa Monica Boulevard, and I believe there's a motion before, but not much else. Once Fountain is done, can we consider protected bike lanes on Santa Monica?
Absolutely. And the city, I believe, and I haven't gotten an update on Santa Monica for a while, was doing a block by block analysis for where it could be done and how it could be done. But we did prioritize Fountain first. And so that's why Santa Monica is continuing. But hopefully connecting Fountain down to the parts where Santa Monica does meet. We are painting the we are painting the bike path in on Santa Monica Boulevard where it is where you see it. So those are going to be painted green, as well as at Fairfax on the north and south side where they exist as
well. I think one of the friends you alluded to asked this question, but I want to give you a chance to answer it. Basically, the question is, why hasn't the city taken any measures to improve safety on Fountain in the last 5 years? This person cites examples such as red light cameras or traffic calming measures, etc.
Yeah, so there's a litany of policy and staff reports that will tell you from leading intervals for pedestrians to making sure all of our lights at a certain time are red so people just don't see a full line of green and they can go 50 miles an hour. Red light cameras are not allowed by the city per state law. If you look that up, you would know it. Neither are speed cameras. The sharrows are not good, and so those shouldn't really be existent in that way. You can't just throw down a speed bump. Staff did a report on that many years ago, and you can talk to our incredible staff on that. That's just not how that works. And also it's a neighborhood street in that way. And so we should not have cars in a neighborhood street going 70 miles an hour.
And I just want to say, and I don't know if everyone knows this history, but before West Hollywood was a city, it was the county of Los Angeles that came in and shaved sidewalks back to make Fountain what it is today and the speedway that it is. And if you go just east of La Brea, it is one lane in each direction with streets, with trees and wider sidewalks. And so in a way, this project is recreating what we lost when the county did that in the 60s. Okay.
And I think ultimately, you were running a bill on red light cameras for these reasons, right? And what needs to be done locally. And there still needs to be expansion in that. And I think that frankly, people, when they lose elections, this is something that, was on the ballot in the fall of last year. And the voters over, we want to call the bike lane guy and his colleague, right? And so there is a referendum, there was a vote, and it is occurring. And so I think that we all hopefully at one day can understand traffic calming measures and street safety should be of utmost importance. Quality of life. And if for those that don't live near Fountain, that use it as a freeway, I think that's a moment to question your conscience. And also, if you live in a home with 2 driveways on a historic street, you also might want to understand that you don't have to worry about parking because you have 2 parking spots in your driveway as well.
And I do just want to clarify, red light cameras, I believe, are allowed in West Hollywood, but a lot of cities choose not to implement them because they lose a lot of money doing it. Our bill this year is aiming to fix a lot of those issues to make red light cameras more palatable in a city like West Hollywood.
Yeah, and we also had the ACLU on our butt on that way too.
So John, we're at time. I want to be respectful of your time and thank you for coming on. Is there any message you'd like to give the audience before we wrap up?
I'm just really thankful for the continued advocacy of Streets for All. You constantly show up and you are respectful and you are individuals that want to just make people's lives better. I could not ask for more out of any type of group that are really just trying to look at street safety overall. You're not someone that is trying to present us a problem with no solution. You bring forth the solution to local cities and you put your money where your mouth is. And I think that's important. That's people power. And that's something I've always been a huge fan of. I've always been a strong supporter of the work that we've been doing. And this is about making our quality of lives better. And if we can all agree on that, we can all stay safe. We can bike, we can scoot, we can walk. And hey, also you can drive if you need to, because when it's safer for everyone, everyone wins. So I'm just really glad that you're all doing all the work. And I look forward to being a partner with you in years to come.
Well, thank you, John. Thanks for coming on. You've been a great partner for us in the city of West Hollywood. And I'm sure we look forward to hosting mobility debates for state seats. And we're definitely excited to get involved in this really critical state Senate seat that you're running for. So good, best of luck in your campaign. Thank you, everybody, for your time, and have a good night.
See you later.
Bye.